This is Yair Davidiy speaking to you from the land of Israel. Today we are continuing our study of the book of Isaiah. Book of Isaiah chapter 13 begins the burden of Babylon. It's concentrated on Babylon, ancient Babylon. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos, it says Isaiah the son of Amos. In Hebrew, the name Amos is pronounced as Amots. Amots is similar to the name of King Amaziah. Amaziah was the father of King Uzziah, within whose days Isaiah had begun his prophecy. See Isaiah 1:1. Says the vision of Isaiah the son of Amots, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. King Amaziah was the father of Uzziah. King Amaziah was the father of Uzziah and the brother of Amos, the father of Isaiah. This prophecy is against Babylon, Babylon as it stood at that time, as it was at that time. The commentators say, however, that it is also referring to the last days. That is the way of prophecy. The prophets took things that were happening in their time, spoke of them, described them, and then extrapolated from them into the distant future, mainly to the time of the Messiah, or to the end times, or to things that would lead directly up to the end times. Many people from ancient Babylon went to Rome. There's been books on this describing the ethnic migration of peoples from the Middle East to Rome towards the end of Rome under the Caesars, under the emperors. So many people from the Middle East, including from Edom and others, went to Rome, also from Babylon. And in the Bible, the identification of Edom and Babylon are intertwined. So prophecy to one may refer to the other. In general, we find Edom, descendants of Edom. Edom is another name for Esau. Esau was the brother of Jacob, who was also known as Israel. Israel gave rise to 12 tribes. 2 of these tribes became the central core of the Jewish people, whereas the others got lost, became the lost 10 tribes, and eventually moved to Western Europe, from there to North America and related areas, and that is where they are today. That is where they are today, that is where they are to be found, and that is where they gave expression to their Israelite identity in the peculiar, particular task that they themselves were destined to play. The divine providence wanted them to fulfill, and they have fulfilled it. We have spoken of this, and we speak over this all the time. That is what we do. We speak about the lost tribes, to identify them with peoples in the West. We prove it, and we spread this knowledge, and we are not coming to convert anyone to Judaism. We don't want it. On the whole, we think it's not necessary, though there are exceptions, but that is not our task. Our task is to spread knowledge to as many of the concerned peoples as possible concerning their ancient Israelite ancestry, that they descend from the lost tribes of Israel. This knowledge needs to be made known, it needs to be spread. And that is what we try and do through research and publishing the results of our research, and also creating a forum for discussion and so on. Now, the Jewish people are mainly about 80% of the Jewish people. The Jewish people are divided into different sections. So present-day Jewish people are divided into different sections. The majority are Ashkenazi Jews, European Jews, even though a good portion of them were exterminated by Germans and related, but were exterminated by Germans and their allies in the Holocaust, World War II. They still are the dominant element amongst the Jewish people. And they are Jewish. They give expression to their Judaism. That is what we have. That is what they are whom the Bible speaks about. We have articles on this. We have also video clips about this, proving that the Jews of today are the Jews of the Bible, are Judah of the Bible. But nevertheless, the Jews did take in converts. And they're allowed to do so. The Bible allowed them to do so. Even encourages them to do so. The Jew who converts, kosher conversion, is Jewish. There's no two ways about it. No one's going to say anything. No one's going to say anything different. And it could involve a large number, a good proportion of those who are Jewish today. Even though the central core always seems to relate back to the original stock, there are a lot of additions that came in and stayed. And there were windows in time, certain periods when the Jews accepted a lot of converts, and then they stopped doing so for different reasons. And even now, on the whole, they don't encourage it. Though there are a lot of converts, but they're not encouraged. They come in even despite being discouraged from doing so. But it's not as it was in the past, when in the time of the early sages, in the Second Temple period, a lot of converts were made, a lot of conversions were made, and encouraged to do so. And also after that, there was a period when this continued. Women especially were attracted to it according to the sources. The females, like Judaism, were attracted to it and found it amenable to themselves. The males less so, possibly because Judaism requires circumcision, and a full-grown male doesn't like touching up, doesn't like interference with his apparatus, one could say. But nevertheless, a lot of women did come in. And in the time of the Romans, indications are that many of these women who came in the Roman Empire were from specific regions. And not only were they from specific regions, but also there was some of the quirk of destiny. Many of the women who came in from these specific regions, they became dominant in the ancestral lineages. And many of these women came from Etruscan areas, former Etruscan areas in northwest Italy. The Etruscans were a nation people. They originally came from Lydia in western Turkey. Lud was the son of Shem. Mankind is comprised of descendants from Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They are the descendants of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. One of the descendants of Shem was Lud. Lud had his own country in the west of Turkey, what is now Turkey. Lydia. And Herodotus tells us that at one stage the Lydians were suffering from overpopulation. So they decided that a large portion of their population would migrate. And they did, and they migrated to northern East Italy, and they established the Etruscan Empire in the region of Tuscany, the Tuscany, that was where they set themselves up, mixed with the locals, and they established their own civilization. And they neighbored the Romans, and they intermixed with the Romans, and many leading Roman families were descended from them. And they helped give rise to Roman civilization. And many women amongst them, at some stage, when there was a window in time in which conversions were encouraged, or made much easier than they are at present, and many women from amongst the Etruscan region, from the Etruscan regions, became Jewish. Judaism is traced through the mother. Once a woman converts, or they are Jewish, according to the Torah. There's no way back. So that is why they make it difficult to be accepted. Once you're in, you can't back out. And the kosher Jewish mother is the Jewish mother. Judaism is traced through the mother, no matter where her parents came from. And the mtDNA, that is that section of DNA that they use in tracing ancestry, known as the mtDNA, goes through the females. And the Ashkenazi Jews show a large percentage, perhaps 40% or more, from northern Italy, and perhaps also from southern France, which neighbors the area. And about 40% of the Ashkenazi Jews have such traits, relating them back to Tuscany. Now, this could be a quirk. Sometimes you get bottlenecks. You get a phenomenon where you might have a lot of ancestors, a lot of different ancestors, and they all have children. But somehow or other, those who can be traced through their father and their mother in each generation gets less and less. Until you get down to a very few people. Out of all the ancestors you have, there's only a few that can be traced back or down to us. And it doesn't mean that the other ancestors don't exist. It's just that the means of tracing their DNA that we use is only good for a small number of the original ancestors. So this might explain it. There may not be that many people from northern Italy in the actual numbers, but the ones that are show up. That too is significant. The ones that are show up in mtDNA tracing. This accounts for about 40% or more of the Ashkenazi Jews. Sephardic Jews have a different story parallel to this, and that is another matter. Judaism is traced through the mother, and that is the bottom line. So getting back to what we're speaking of, 13, it says, verse 2, it says, lift up a banner upon the high mountains, exhort the voice unto their aim, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones, I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, to know of my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. In other words, those who believe in God Almighty, they are the noble ones, they are the ennobled, they are the aristocracy of humanity. And they are called upon to know what God wants and what God is doing through the Bible. And he describes great calamities that will occur in the end times. He says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts muster the host of the battle. God brings together all these peoples for war. And we can see this coming now. We can see something of it coming now. You see the United Nations representing all the hosts of the earth. And every now and again they get together and they pass resolutions. And they pass the same number of resolutions or a similar number of resolutions against the state of Israel than they did against any other group altogether. Against anyone else altogether, all the others altogether, in the eyes of the UN, are not as bad as the state of Israel is. Yeah, you follow, you read the papers, you read the news, and now and again you follow what's going on. You see the atrocities and the barbarism and the evil things that are done all over the earth. But the only thing that UN can bother about is the little Jew boys in the state of Israel. That is all that worries them. And even some of the Jews themselves are also involved in this, attacking the Jewish state, attacking the Jewish people. And that's the reality. But there we can see in the Bible. The Bible reflects this, that in the end times still all the nations of the earth will come against the state of Israel and come against the Israelite people. And they will come against descendants of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. And we see this. We identify the lost 10 tribes of Israel with the English-speaking peoples. They are from the tribes of Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh, mainly. The other tribes of Israel, we identify with Western nations, Finland, Issachar, Sweden, Gad, Norway, Naphtali, Dan, Denmark, the Netherlands, Zebulun, also in Belgium. So too in France we have Reuben, in Switzerland we have others from Issachar. Then we have the British Isles, where we find Ephraim and Manasseh, as well as other tribes. And so too in Ireland we find Asher and Naphtali and representatives of other tribes. And so too in Northern Ireland, where it is similar to Ireland, but they also have admixtures of people from Judah and from Joseph. So that is it. And all these peoples, they are Gentiles. They act like Gentiles, think like Gentiles, consider themselves Gentiles. But they are descended from Israelites. And they became like the Gentiles in order to reform and uplift all of mankind from within as Gentiles. And in the end times, it will be made known to them who they are and where they came from, and that this has begun, and it needs to continue to be begun, needs to continue to go on. And it was always known, but even the people who know it didn't really know what to do with it. And neither necessarily do we, but we do what we can. And the Almighty is guiding us. We believe. And so too, these peoples, a lot of these peoples are also anti-Semitic. They're against the Jews. They're critical of the state of Israel in an unfair manner. And they're not necessarily morally exalted. They are not the best of the best in many ways, but nevertheless they have aspects of humanity, aspects of being humane, aspects of culture, of consciousness, of empathy for others, more than the other peoples. And many of them also have sympathy for the Jewish people. And this sympathy is growing in the subterranean. It is growing, though it's hardly felt. And sometimes it seems to be the opposite, but that is the reality. The only ones who are liable, or the few ones who are liable, who are capable of establishing a report with the Jews, are those people, because they are from the 10 tribes of Israel. And they too in the end times will be targeted by the rest of humanity. And other portions of the Bible that we will get to, God willing, speak of this in more detail. Each chapter has its own unique theme to concentrate upon.